Tonight on America's Hope, we focus on Jack Wurfl, his remarkable story. All that and more next. From the NTD Global Headquarters in New York, I'm Kelly Wright, and this is America's Hope. Good evening. Thanks for joining us this hour. Tonight, we're going to conduct a very special interview with a man who has lived a remarkable life. Jochen Jack Wurfl grew up during the worst of times in Germany. Born in 1932 to his Jewish mother and Catholic father, he lived in Austria until 1936. And then, as the hatred of Jewish people began to rise under the leadership of Germany's dictator Adolf Hitler, Germany's Nazi war machine began to ramp up persecution and the murder of Jews. The genocide or Holocaust of Jewish people continued throughout the war until the Allied forces led by the U.S. military conquered Hitler's evil reign of terror, beginning with the historic D-Day invasion at Normandy 80 years ago. Jack Wurfl lived through it all, and he shares his dramatic story in a powerful and inspiring memoir called My Two Lives. From his home in Baltimore, Maryland, Jack talked to me about how he and his brothers survived the Holocaust and how he made it here to America, the country he loves and proudly calls home. In the spirit of our nation's independence and freedom, here now is my interview with Jack, a man who shows us all how hope prevails even in the most dire of circumstances. Welcome to America's Hope. My first guest and only guest of this hour is someone that I really want to introduce you to because he is a survivor. He has survived the Holocaust and recalls the Allied rescue on the 80th D-Day anniversary, which took place several weeks ago here in the United States. Here's a quote from our guest. "Finally, the Americans, the British, and the Allies were coming," says Holocaust survivor Jochen Wurfl, better known as Jack. Jack Wurfl joins us now on America's Hope. Sir, it is an honor to welcome you to America's Hope because, in my estimation, you are the epitome of what hope stands for. Talk to me, please, about what it was like growing up in Germany. At that particular time, of course, you were born in Germany. Your mother was Roman Catholic, as I understand. Your father was Jewish. Take me back to that time.
The other way around.
The other way around. Thank you for correcting me.
Yeah, my mother was Jewish. My father was Catholic.
Okay, and as I understand, your mother, unfortunately, was sent to Auschwitz.
That's correct.
Please take me back to that time and what was going on in your mind as a young child growing up in Germany.
Yeah, actually, originally, Kelly, we're from Austria, and we lived near Vienna. My father worked in Vienna. He worked for President Schuschnigg, who was the president of Austria at the time. And, of course, we knew that Hitler was trying to take over Austria and make it part of Germany. And Mr. Schuschnigg and my dad, the government, we were very much against it. So when my father knew that this was going to happen very soon, my father and mother sent me to Berlin, to where my grandparents lived. And he felt it would be a little safer for my brother, Peter, and myself to live in Berlin rather than in Austria when Hitler was coming in. And of course, this all happened. So my brother and I, we moved to Berlin. My mother went into exile to Czechoslovakia, and she lived in Prague for about a year or two. And then eventually Hitler, of course, took over Czechoslovakia too. And my mother was again in great danger there because they were again arresting all the Jewish people. There were many of them in the Czech Republic. So she came back to Berlin, and she asked us Oh, well, at that point, I should really tell you that my grandfather in Berlin, who was a wonderful man, he was very concerned about his grandchildren, his two boys, and he sent us to a place called Dangast, which is right on the North Sea in northern Germany. And he sent us there to a camp to stay there a few months, to be out of Austria, of course, and also as well as Berlin. But instead, as time went on, my father was arrested with Schuschnigg, the president. They were arrested together in Austria when Hitler walked in, and they were sent to Germany to a concentration camp. My mother came back from, as I said, from the Czech Republic, and she wanted to live with us for a little while, so we left our camp on the North Sea and went back to my mother for a while, who had gotten an apartment in an apartment house in Berlin, and she wanted us to live with her there for a while. So we did, and I started school there. I was 6 years old, and one day my brother and I were sent on a mission by my mother to take a letter by subway to a certain place in Berlin. We had to change subways, and we did. And once we came out of the steps in the subway, there would be a gentleman who would approach us. He would have a code word, and when we hear the right code word, we would give him the letter my mother gave us, and in turn, he gave us a letter for my mother. So we went back by subway back to our house, to our apartment where we lived with my mother. And as we came to the corner of Meidikerstrasse, where we lived, we noticed that there were quite a few cars parked in front of our building, the apartment house, from the Gestapo and from the SS. So we decided we better wait there on the corner and see what's happening with all these Gestapo and SS people. And we could always ask my mother once they would leave as to what was going on in the building. Well, to our surprise, after we waited there for a while, it was my mother who was taken out of the building, put into a Gestapo car, and driven away, and the rest of the cars followed.
Hi, everybody. I hope you're enjoying this episode so far of America's Hope. If you'd like to see it in its entirety, just click on the link below. Thanks for watching.